Judy Altman with Post Perspective, and we're here at NAB 2015, and my guest at the moment is Chuck Westfall from Canon, and he brought props. So can you tell us about this really cool, small form factor and affordable 4K camera?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you very much. We have the XC10 here, and this is a completely different kind of a camera for a Canon. It is our first small size 4K, but it also has ability to do full 12 megapixel stills as well. So it's a hybrid device that can do just about anything you need it to do in terms of video or still. One of the exciting things, though, that really is the big attention grabber is the fact that it will do 4K, 30 frames per second, 8-bit 422, which is a professional level on your video quality. It has a built-in 24 to 240 millimeter optical zoom lens with stabilization. And that is really one of the main features that you have in a camera like this, is to be able to go into just about any kind of situation and know that you've got the right lens to handle the job. Now it also uses a 1-inch CMOS sensor, and that's a much bigger sensor than is available in some of the other small format 4K cameras that are out there. So what that does for us is it helps us to get a better picture quality, because being in a larger sensor, we can get actually lower noise levels compared to some of the smaller format 4Ks that are currently available. And so you're now going to see that, especially when you're shooting indoors or in low light, that your video is going to look a whole lot cleaner.
So where do you see people using this? Just a few examples. I'm sure you've tested it out. What are some of the fun places that you've put it?
Well, there's a number of different ones. I would say that just from a practical standpoint, it's a great hand-holdable camera. You notice that it has a nice grip on it that basically can be positioned so that you can really get the right angle to shoot from. So, for example, if you were going to do like a run-and-gun interview, one of the nice things that you have here is face detection autofocus. So even though you have the 1-inch sensor with a relatively shallow depth of field, you can keep that person in focus nice and sharp and clear. And it's very, very effortless to be able to do that. Now, another, I would say, important attribute for this would be something where you've got it mounted on a vehicle.
Do you mind?
Please do. If you have it mounted on a vehicle, or you have it mounted in a drone, or you have it mounted in a small confined space, the small size of this really lends itself very well to remote setups. And speaking of that, that's another area that we can mention, is that one of the features that you have here that doesn't show up just by looking at it is the fact that there's a built-in Wi-Fi. And so you have a dual band Wi-Fi that you can pick the right band according to the environment that you're in. You avoid some of the crosstalk that you might get with a consumer Wi-Fi. And then you have the ability to either just look at the picture as a monitor, or you could also use it to actually change the camera settings and start and stop recording. So it's really pretty full-featured remote control wirelessly through your smartphone, your tablet, your laptop, or your desktop computer.
It's pretty cool, and it's very light.
Yes, yeah. It's amazingly well designed, where you have, for example, the card slots right here in the back.
If you could show everyone.
There's dual card slots. So you have the CFast 2.0 on top, and that's what's used for the 4K recording. And then you have the SD card slot underneath, and that's basically used for still pictures and for HD. Now you can record HD and 4K simultaneously. You can also take frame grabs out of your 4K feed, and at that point you now have an 8 megapixel still, which is going to be great for any number of different uses, such specifically online. It's fantastic. So again, a very, very versatile camera that way. And then you also have the other various different more professionally oriented features. You have, for example, over here, just the jack for the headphone, so that you'd be able to monitor your audio in real time. And then on the other side, you've got the ports for the USB and the HDMI out. So you've got a number of different, standard features that would be good for professionals to get the most out of the equipment.
So it's just another option for them, and an easier way to capture what they need, and for a lower price point.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the C300. So that's a bit more.
That's the big brother.
Yeah.
All right, and in fact, that was one of the things that we were thinking about when we developed this camera, was how the two of these cameras could actually help each other out or use as a support, so that if you're doing a multi-camera shoot, for example. So the C300 Mark II, of course, is the evolution of the original C300 that we introduced in 2011. And the big idea here is for us to be able to take the feedback that we received over the last 2 or 3 years from our users and try our very best to reflect all those things, plus the technological advancements that have come along in that period of time. So with the C300 Mark II, the first thing that we want to talk about is how the image quality is way up. I mean, we already had a fantastic image quality off the C300. But the one thing that I would say was a slight limitation for some people was the fact that it was limited to 8-bit. So it was essentially an 8-bit 422 feed out of that camera, and it was an HD only. Now we have 10-bit, and even in the the 2K or full HD format, up to 12-bit if you want it. So you have that higher bit rate. You also have got 4K recording internally and 4K raw out. So it is way, way up on all those basic specs. Then you start talking about things like the fact that the ISO range now all the way up to 102,000, so even more sensitive than it was before, and a 15-stop dynamic range. That is right at the peak of what's available out there right now. And so what that does is it really makes it a whole lot easier when you're shooting in a contrasty lighting situation to have full control over all the tones that are in the image.
So, because I don't want to run out of time, I want to also dig into this monitor that you have before. Because was it 2 years ago that you introduced a 4K monitor for post environments?
Well, actually, it was last year that we started shipping it.
Oh, okay.
Now, we had shown prototypes of it for about 2 or 3 years in a row, and then last year it actually hit the market. And now, within this 1 year period of time, we're introducing the follow-up, which is the DPV 2410. That's the new 24-inch version of the 30-inch monitor that we currently have. And so with this 2410, becomes the world's smallest 4K reference display. And that makes it easier to carry this monitor with you when you go on set and you want to be able to have the DIT see exactly what's going on as the feature is being recorded.
So the form factor is small, it's got some handles so you can move it around pretty easily.
And it's very robust. It's one of these things that, we know how professionals are. They're going to be, kind of moving that equipment around. It is a precision piece, but it's designed to stand up to professional use.
Fantastic. Chuck, thank you so much for coming by and sharing the news that Canon has at the show. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that I missed that's important?
It's just the one thing I wanted to make sure that anybody who's interested in getting more information about the product could come to visit our site at usa.canon.com.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting us.
This is Randy Altman with Post Perspective, live from